This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to a sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, because you don't see a graphic, there is a reason. Last year was one of the worst moments ever for a sports fan like myself. March 12th, 2020 was when basically all sports died off because of the COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic was first spotted in late December 2019 in Wuhan, China, and basically people returning home to their respective countries from Chinese New Year basically carried the disease with them. All that. Some did, some didn't. But basically, the spread was huge and all that. And basically, a lot of countries got infected by the COVID pandemic. It was declared a pandemic on January 31st. No, sorry, on March, I guess you could say March 11th, 2020. But basically, the sports world kept moving on and on and on without too much worry about the COVID crisis until Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert became the first athlete to be confirmed getting the COVID disease. So basically, because of him and all that, the NBA had to act quickly, and basically they decided to shut down the season for the time being until COVID could be saved. I mean, it could be eradicated or put in a place that people are comfortable going to games. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen, and basically it ruined a lot of people's sporting pleasures and all that. The NHL followed suit a couple days later. March Madness was canceled for the first time in its history. They even played March Madness during World War II. I mean, that tournament officially started in 1939, by the way, if you must know. So basically, yeah. So, it was huge because, especially college basketball fans would be miffed because 68 teams would go be the ultimate champion. I remember I did something. I did a tournament, I simulated it on ESPN college basketball, what the tournament would have looked like. I can't remember who won, but I think Gonzaga was in the final. I can't remember who I picked. But anyhow, so yeah, that was hard. And then baseball had to be delayed. Football was not really affected as much yet. But then again, the NFL draft had to be virtual and all that stuff. Like every draft was virtual because, you couldn't gather and all that. Many states and many provinces had different ways to cope with COVID and all that. So basically all sports were canceled and all that. There were no leagues, no nothing. Sumo was even affected by it for a tournament, which ticked me off. So basically, as a sports fan, you got to think where you're going to turn to. You either can watch classic sports on TV or your computer, like I did, or you can basically just, try to find different hobbies, like read books, take walks and all that. Do whatever it takes. But COVID really ruined the sports fans' experience, especially with the leagues losing money hand over fist and all that. In fact, I believe that the NFL's salary cap has been chopped by about 15% or something like that because of the lack of revenue and all that with those empty stadiums. The good news was that sports did play on, but it took a long time. Baseball didn't start till late July and had a 60-game truncated season. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but anyway, yeah. I mean, it's good news that the Jays qualified for the playoffs, but in any other year they would not have qualified. The Major League Baseball powers decided to have the teams within their own, within your own division, to play 40 games within. So basically, that meant that each division in baseball had 5 teams, American League and National League too. But basically, for the Blue Jays, they would be playing the Yankees, the Orioles, the Yankees, and the Rays, 10 times each, and then they would have 20 interleague games against their NL East, their they're neighbors to the National League. So the National League East. So they would be playing Washington, Florida, Atlanta, Philly, Washington, Florida, and the Mets. I know it should be Miami, but I still call them the Florida Marlins. But anyhow, so the Blue Jays looked good and all that. I mean, they got the 8th seed. They were the worst playoff team to get in. Technically, yeah. But, the Blue Jays had some nice power. Sadly, though, Tampa was sweeping in 2. And they did a playoff format. Huge is that there would be 8 teams in each league, the American League and National League, that would go on. Best of 3. They would basically play all 3 games at a certain stadium. For the Jays, they would be playing in Tampa all 3 games. But I think game 2, they swapped and became home team. The quote-unquote home team in game 2. All that. So, yeah, best of 2 out of 3 and all that. So, basically, those 4 winners would face each other in a neutral site game. They set up around California and Texas certain stadiums to host the LDS, the LCS, and the World Series. World Series would be held at the new Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. And, I think it's a good stadium, but the center field ambiance of, after a Texas home run, those flag girls basically running around that grass path with the Texas flags on it, and it's not there in the new Texas Stadium. I kind of hated that, but that's just me. So anyway, long story short, Dodgers and Rays took each other on in the World Series. The Rays made it interesting with a Game 4 walk-off win by Brett Phillips. And LA basically shit the bed with a couple of errors. However, the Dodgers did win games 5 and 6 to finally get the World Series. And basically, the overachievers got their title. They did have the best record in Major League Baseball, though. And Tampa was the best team in the American League, which was hard to believe. So, yeah. So, basketball said that basically they would play a few games in Orlando. Well, they went to the Walt Disney Resort in Orlando that had basketball courts. It basically said that there would be some games and all that. Each team who was close, I think there were 22 teams in total or something like that, would play like 8 games that would count in standings and then set up from 1 to 8. However, if a 9th place team from one of the conferences were at least 2 or 3 games behind the 8th place team, then they would play a mini 3-game playoff to decide who would win that seed. So basically, I can't remember. I know the East did that, but I can't remember who came out of that. But yeah, that format actually screwed the San Antonio Spurs because for the first time since 1997, the Spurs missed the playoffs. And they had the longest playoff streak of any team in the Big 4 leagues. 23 years. I was like, wow, frig. But anyway, yeah, the Toronto Raptors fell flat to Boston in the conference semifinals. But then Boston fell to Miami in the conference finals, the Eastern Finals, and then Miami then fell to the LA Lakers, giving LeBron a title in his 3rd different franchise, Miami, Cleveland, and the Lakers. Anthony Davis, the unibrow, the guy I did for Birthday Boy last time, got his trophy and all that. The LA Lakers got their 17th title, which tied them with the Bull Sox for the most in team history. Bull Sox. Sorry, I meant the Boston Celtics. Fuck me. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, the Boston Celtics. Yeah. So basically, yeah. And now this year that's coming up, they basically have a shortened year, and I believe they said that there would be kind of a playoff format between. If you're in the top 6 in each conference, you qualify for the playoffs. But 7th would play 10th, and 8th would play 9th in some kind of playoff. Tournament, I think. I can't remember completely, but yeah, I think that's what they said. So yeah, so the Raptors are not doing so hot. I mean, we've had COVID problems of our own recently, so that's not good. Football was not completely hit hard too much, but then again, there were cases of COVID ruining things in the early season that basically pushed a lot of games from week to week and all that. And people thought that football had to take a hiatus because of the COVID crisis. But thankfully, though, didn't lose a week. For football fans, that's okay. But of course, for Patriot fans like myself, basically, we were just fuming. Not only with missing the playoffs for the first time in 12 years, the fact that we didn't win that the fact that we didn't have a winning season for the first time in 2 decades, which is hard to believe, and the fact that Tom Brady freaking left the Pats, went to the Bucks, and won the Super Bowl with Tampa just fumes me. I mean, good on Tom Brady getting his 7th title, but freak, why? Why? Sorry. But anyway, yeah, the Super Bowl wasn't really hit hard that much, except for the fan base. There was only like, what, 20% capacity or something like that? There were still fans in the stands. Unlike a lot of the NFL games that basically had no fans in the stands. And basically, the NFL lost a ton of revenue. So, anyway, yeah. So, that's the NFL, the NBA. Well, the NHL, they also had a thing. I actually did a simulation of the rest of the 2020 season to see who would make the playoffs, and then did a Stanley Cup thing based on that. And in something to say like to art, the Tampa Bay Lightning did go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Unfortunately, though, because of the bias of being the all-time teams and all that, and put all of Vancouver superstars, against the Tampa superstars, Vancouver won the simulated title, but Tampa won the real title. So basically, the Stanley Cup playoffs were in the bubble. They said that the top 12 teams would move on in each conference. The top 4 teams in each conference would actually not only make the quarterfinals automatically, they would play a round robin to see who would get the 1 seed and all that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Meanwhile, based on points percentage, 5th would play 12, 6th would play 11, 7th versus 10th, and 8th versus 9th. The Rangers, even though they got blown out of the water by Carolina in the playoffs, actually were lucky because when they did the draft lottery before the qualification round, they found out that basically one of the lottery winners were going to get the number 1 overall pick. So basically, it would be there would be 8 lottery teams, 8 balls in the hopper. You have a 1 in 8 chance to get the number 1 pick. And guess what? It was the New York Rangers, and Blue Shirt Underground lost their shit. I tells you what. So basically, yeah. So the Rangers got that. Believe me, I wanted the Rangers to win that series and prove everyone wrong. But anyway, so the Leafs actually had a chance against Columbus, but a pair of massive 3-goal comebacks, once both by Columbus and Toronto, had the series tied 2-2 going to it was best of 5, by the way. And shockingly, Toronto lost to Columbus. So yeah, another year without a playoff series win for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Fuck. Too long. Mm-hmm. One of the major shocks was that Montreal sent Pittsburgh home and Chicago sent Edmonton home. And Pittsburgh and Edmonton were hardcore favorites to win their series. But man, what a shock. Tampa and Columbus. Yeah. Tampa and Columbus, when they met in the quarterfinals, they had game 1 go to quintuple. That's 5. That's 5. If you must know, overtimes. And it's like, what the heck? 5 overtimes. Well, the game started at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so basically people still were able to watch the game and all that on the East Coast. Yeah, so anyway, yeah. But Tampa went on to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Dallas Stars. Dallas would make their first Stanley Cup Finals appearance in 2 decades. Tampa trying to win the Stanley Cup after their buck up in 2018-19, becoming the team with 62 regular season wins, but couldn't even win 1 playoff game against Columbus in the first round. That was a terrible feeling. But I knew Tampa was going to do it because I'm like, they're out for revenge. And after all, Detroit, when they won 62 games in the 95-96 season and lost in the Stanley Cup semis to Colorado, I figured, they had a chance to redeem themselves. And they did. Detroit redeemed themselves and swept Philly. Tampa didn't sweep Dallas, but they got it in 6. I figured Tampa was due for redemption song. I was right. I picked Kansas City to win the 2020 Super Bowl. Well, that was pre-COVID. I picked the Dodgers to win the World Series because I'm like, LA needs this World Series. I was right. And in basketball, I went with the Lakers because not only did I want LeBron and Anthony Davis to win a title, but remember, this was the year when Kobe died. This is for Kobe. I was right. So I went 4 for 4. Of course, I missed the Super Bowl pick. Why did I pick Kansas City and all that? But anyway, yeah, COVID just ruined sports fans for a long time. We're starting to slowly get back into sports and all that. The NHL doesn't end the regular season till May. NBA, I believe, is the same way. I still have to find out if the Raptors play on my birthday or not. The Jays do. It would have been a home game against the Angels, but because of the Canada-U.S. border closure, it just basically means that the Jays have to play in Dundee for a few weeks, a few months probably. And I know the Patriots can't play on my birthday because the NFL doesn't play in the spring. So anyway, yeah, it would be interesting to see how we recover from COVID. The economy has been sharply declining in many seasons. It's just hard to believe. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching this video and have a good day.